She knows what she wants tonight. Moves fast like a neon tide. Confidence in every line. She's got style to find.
The Package, Chapter 10. Inside the dimly lit playground, the command center was a hive of quiet, urgent activity. Agents moved like shadows, their faces grim, their focus absolute. Coulson, his face etched with fatigue, but his eyes burning with renewed purpose, was at the main table. Across from him sat Agent Sarah Walker and Lance Hunter, their maps spread out on the table's surface. Hunter was mid-sentence, gesturing with a hand to emphasize a point on a map, when the blast doors opened. The hum of the generators was replaced by a second, quiet wave of arrivals. May entered first, followed by Natasha, Bobby, and Daisy. "Coulson," May said, her voice hoarse but steady. "Site Gamma. The core is contained, but the EMP, it worked. It was massive." "We need to talk," Coulson said, his voice quiet but firm. "Everything. Every detail. We need to put it all together. The world just went dark, and we're the only ones left with a light." As Coulson spoke, Bobby's gaze swept the room. Her jaw tightened as she took in the scene at the main table. She made a beeline for Coulson and the briefing, her eyes fixed on Hunter's back. However, she didn't have time to say anything before a third, more deliberate entrance drew everyone's attention. The blast doors swung open once more. All eyes snapped to the entrance as John Casey was escorted in. His presence immediately drew the attention of everyone in the room. His posture was rigid, his gaze scanning the assembled agents with a veteran's wary intensity. Coulson nodded a silent welcome. Casey's gaze continued its sweep, and a flicker of relief crossed his face as he locked eyes with Agent Walker. She gave him a brief, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement, her own shoulders relaxing slightly. Their reunion, a silent recognition of shared battles, and the quiet relief of seeing a partner alive. The moment was fleeting. Bobby, seeing Casey's arrival, watched the brief exchange with interest, then her gaze snapped back to Hunter. He was looking at Casey, but he felt her stare, and his head turned slowly. The easy smile on his face faltered as he met her gaze. A charged silence descended between them, thick with years of history, of shared missions, of heartbreak, and unspoken feelings. Bobby's jaw tightened, a familiar flicker of anger and hurt, battling with something deeper in her eyes. "Well, look who it is," Bobby said, her voice a low, dangerous purr, cutting through the low hum of the generators. Her gaze was fixed on Hunter. "The prodigal son returns, with a new friend, no less." Hunter shoved his hands into his pockets, trying for nonchalance, but failing. "Morse, always a pleasure. We were just passing through. Got a message from a friend you were in a bit of trouble." He gestured vaguely to Casey. Bobby barely glanced at Casey. Her eyes were still fixed on Hunter. "Still chasing ghosts, Hunter? Or did you finally find a reason to come in from the cold?" "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing," Hunter shot back, the easy banter a thin veil over the raw emotions simmering beneath there. "Still playing by the book, even when the world just decided to shred the book?" Their exchange was sharp, almost aggressive, yet utterly devoid of real venom. It was the language of two people who knew each other too well, who had hurt each other deeply, and who were now unexpectedly thrown back into a shared crucible. Coulson, sensing the tension, stepped forward. "Hunter, Morse, save it for later. We have bigger problems." He looked at Casey. "Colonel, glad you made it. Agent Walker's just given us a terrifying briefing. I assume you have more to add." Casey, his gaze still lingering on Sarah to confirm she was indeed all right, nodded. "You bet I do, Coulson, and it's worse than you think." The playground's command center, despite its dim lighting and the pervasive hum of the emergency generators, pulsed with a renewed, grim energy. With all their key agents finally present, Phil Coulson stood at the head of the long table, the large paper map now serving as their primary tactical display. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and the unspoken weight of a world gone dark. "All right," Coulson began, his voice cutting through the low murmur of conversations. "We're all here. We all saw it. The director achieved his objective. The world is without power, without communications. This isn't a temporary blackout, it's a global reset, and Centipede intends to control what comes next." He gestured to the map. Agent Walker's intel confirmed Site Gamma as the primary energy source. Romanoff and her team confirmed its containment, but its very existence means the director can still wield incredible power. His gaze swept over the assembled faces, assessing their strengths. He had a team of diverse skills, now forced to operate without the very technology that had defined them. "We have two immediate, critical priorities," Coulson stated, his voice firm. "First, we need to locate Centipede's operational bases. If Site Gamma was the activation point, they'll have other facilities, places where they consolidate resources, control their assets, and likely develop their next phase of dominance. Second, we need to understand how to reverse this. We need to find a way to bring the power back, to restart the world." He turned to Simmons, Daisy, and Sarah Walker, their faces eager despite their exhaustion. "Simmons, you'll lead the technical and research group. Agent Johnson, your unique connection to the Core's energy signature will be invaluable. And Agent Walker, I'm thinking your experience as an analyst, along with the intel you brought, makes you crucial to this team. Your primary objective is to analyze the available data about the Exodus Core's energy signature and the EMP's specific frequency. You need to figure out how this pulse works, how to shield against it, and most importantly, how to reverse it. Think analog solutions. Scavenge every non-electronic component in this playground if you have to. Find a way to generate a counterpulse, or a way to safely reactivate dormant electronics." Simmons nodded vigorously, already pulling a notepad and pencil from her pocket. "Understood, sir. It's a monumental task, but the Core itself should provide some answers." Daisy's jaw was set. "I can feel the residual energy from the Core. Maybe I can help translate it for a counterpulse." Sarah simply nodded, her mind already racing through the complex layers of data, the intersect working silently within her. Coulson then turned to May, Natasha, Fitz, Casey, and Hunter. "May, you'll lead the tactical and reconnaissance group. Your mission is to locate Centipede's other strongholds. Walker's intel gives us some names: Albright, Lynn, Kendrick. They'll have physical locations, hidden facilities. You'll need to confirm these sites and identify any other key Centipede players." "We're operating blind, Coulson," Natasha pointed out, ever practical. "No satellites, no drones. This is old-school recon." "Precisely," Coulson agreed. "No tech means you rely on what's between your ears and what you carry on your back. Fitz, your engineering genius, while usually applied to advanced tech, will be critical for improvising analog solutions in the field, from mechanical repairs to secure comms. Casey, your NSA training in surveillance and interrogation techniques might come in handy for us. Hunter, your deep cover experience and knowledge of their lower-level operations could give us an edge." Fitz, despite being a bit deflated not to be on the primary science team, quickly brightened at the challenge of field improvisation. Casey grunted an affirmation, already mentally sifting through his old-school field manuals. Hunter, for his part, just gave a curt nod, his gaze flicking to Bobby, a subtle tension still simmering between them. "This is a new war," concluded Coulson, his voice unwavering. "Fought without the tools we're used to. But we are S.H.I.E.L.D. We adapt, we protect, and we will not let them win." Sarah leaned closer to Casey, her voice low so only he could hear. "Any word from Burbank, Casey?" He shook his head, grim. "Comms are dead, Walker. Haven't been able to raise anyone outside of this facility. The whole damn network's fried. Chuck, he's just gonna have to ride this one out. And Ellie, Awesome, Morgan, Sarah pressed, her gaze scanning the blank row of screens, hoping for a miracle. Casey gave a rare, almost uncharacteristic sigh. If anyone can hoard enough batteries to keep a generator running, it's Bartowski's family. And Morgan? He's probably already crowned himself king of the Buy More survivors. A faint, sad smile touched Sarah's lips. Yeah, probably. We'll get to them, Casey said, his voice gruff but firm. One disaster at a time, Walker. Sarah nodded, her resolve hardening. Right. One disaster at a time. The groups dispersed. The quiet urgency of their tasks filled the playground. The technical and research group immediately converged on the centipede package and the playground's most hardened analytical tools, their minds already buzzing with complex equations and daring theories. The tactical and reconnaissance group began to pore over maps, prepare their limited gear, and plan their sorties into the silent, unknown world. The fight was on. The playground hummed with a different kind of energy now. Gone was the frantic digital whir, replaced by the low thrum of generators, the quiet clatter of analog equipment, and the focused murmurs of agents adapting to a world without screens. Inside the primary lab, dimly lit by emergency lanterns, Simmons, Daisy, Sarah, and Bobby plunged into their daunting task. The centipede package, containing the dormant core, sat at the center of their efforts, its dull, reddish glow providing the only consistent light. All right, Simmons declared, pulling on a pair of thick rubber gloves. The core is absorbing ambient energy, albeit slowly. The EMP must have been a discharge, not a destructive pulse, which means the energy isn't gone, it's just scattered or redirected. Daisy placed a hand tentatively on the transparent casing of the centipede package. I can still feel it, she murmured, her brow furrowed in concentration. A low hum, like a residual vibration. It's almost like a unique frequency. A frequency, Sarah exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. The intersect, working silently, was already cross-referencing Daisy's intuitive sense with the fragmented data she'd gleaned from the director's tablet. The director talked about anomalous biological interaction and resonant vibrations. What if the EMP isn't a simple electronic disruption, but a frequency resonance that specifically targets the common operational frequencies of modern electronics? Bobby, her analytical mind already grasping the implications, added that if it's a specific frequency, it implies a precise, deliberate design, not just raw power, but targeted disruption. My research into sonic applications of energy absorption could be relevant here. We might need to find its inverse frequency. Simmons's eyes widened. A targeted frequency pulse? That's brilliant and terrifying. It would explain why some older, simpler devices survived and why the core didn't explode. If we can identify that precise frequency, maybe we can generate a counter frequency, a harmonic resonance that could unscramble the EMP's effects, or at least provide a temporary window for power to return. Their immediate challenge was measurement. All their sophisticated spectrum analyzers and frequency generators were inert. We need to build a frequency detector, Simmons concluded, her gaze sweeping over the dusty shelves filled with salvaged, older scientific equipment. Something entirely analog, based on resonance circuits. And we'll need a power source strong enough to generate a reverse pulse once we've identified it. The four women quickly fell into a rhythm, sifting through schematics of obsolete devices, sketching out circuits, and beginning the painstaking work of constructing a functional, non-electronic frequency measuring device from scratch. It was slow, tedious work, but hope, however fragile,
began to blossom in the silent lab. Bobby's understanding of energy absorption and vibrational mechanics provided crucial theoretical groundwork, while Sarah's intersect rapidly processed and filtered countless technical solutions from the playground's old printed archives.
Meanwhile, the tactical and reconnaissance group prepared for their foray into this silent world. May, Natasha, Fitz, Casey, and Hunter huddled around the large paper map, a single battery-powered lamp casting their shadows across it. Our intel on Albright, Lynn, and Kendrick points to several potential properties, May explained, tapping specific locations on the map. Mansions, corporate offices, private estates. We'll start with Albright's primary residence in Connecticut, then move on to Kendrick's known properties. No surveillance, no satellite imagery. We're walking in blind. Any centipede presence will be physical. Fitz, surprisingly energized by the challenge of field improvisation, was already rummaging through a supply crate, pulling out a multi-tool and a roll of industrial tape. I've got a few ideas for non-electronic tripwires and rudimentary alarm systems, and I can rig a directional acoustic amplifier from an old gramophone if we need to listen for distant activity. Good, Fitz, May acknowledged. Casey, your priority is reconnaissance and identifying their security protocols. How are they adapting their defenses in this new, low-tech world? What are their movements? Hunter, use your knowledge of their lower echelons. You might recognize faces, standard operating procedures, or even hidden access points. Casey, his rifle slung comfortably, simply grunted. Understood. Old school. My favorite kind of school. Hunter merely nodded, his gaze distant, likely already replaying the layouts of Centipede's safe houses in his mind. Their immediate challenges were immense: navigation without GPS, communication without radios, and survival in a world where law and order were rapidly dissolving. They loaded up their vehicles, two heavy-duty, older-model SUVs that had miraculously started thanks to their simpler electronic systems. Fuel would be a critical concern. As they moved out, the heavy gates of the playground groaning open, the sight of empty roads and silent, stalled cars was a stark reminder of their task. The air was cool, the sky a vast, indifferent canvas. They were heading into a world redefined by chaos, searching for the architects of the darkness, hoping to find a way to bring back the light.
She's got style to find.